solution which comprises of AI SOC, Application Integration Suite on cloud, and taking the journey on how to migrate or how to take the existing middleware where you have IIB running on-prem and how to take it to cloud, how the marriage between API Connect, App Connect, and IIB happens on cloud in a form of IBM's IPaaS. This is the agenda which I'm trying to cover in 45 minutes. There's a 10 to 15 minutes of demo at the end, which will show you how we connected Salesforce to SAP, Salesforce being a cloud SaaS app, and connecting it to on-prem SAP system using IBM Application Integration Suite on cloud. We'll be doing a hybrid integration using technologies like Docker as well. Okay, I'll move to Miracle Story. I'm from Miracle Software System. I work there as a practice manager. So what Miracle does, Miracle started with integration. Integration is heart of what we do. We are also there in multiple spaces around cloud and hybrid integration. We have 25 plus technology accelerators. Globally, we have 2,500 plus people across US and India and other geographies. We work with Fortune 50, Fortune 100 companies across North America. Coming to IPaaS. As per Gartner, what's the IPaaS qualification from Gartner? Why do people are moving to IPaaS? So why IPaaS emerged as one of the platforms of choice for the enterprises today? Because initially everyone started with the SOA world. Most of the apps were there on cloud, right? Generally, initially they started moving more and more apps on cloud. Now they wanted to have another platform to do integrations on cloud, right? Then the migration between those integrations which happened on-prem and to cloud was making it difficult, right? Then they have to have another challenge where they wanted to connect their apps on cloud to the application on-prem. The hybrid integration was becoming a challenge, whether I host my integration platform on-prem or whether I should be doing those integrations when it comes to orchestrations and transformations parsing on cloud, right? There was no single answer from that perspective. Every time we have to go back to IBM, we have to work out either it should be cast iron or AP or App Connect, whether it should be IIB, which is running on cloud, what kind of a platform will I be using on cloud to manage my integrations, right? So there was a dire necessity or dire need to have an integration platform which will support my integrations, whether it is on-prem, on cloud, or on hybrid. So when I say integration is a wide word, right? It has variety of aspects and flavors attached to it. So when I say so it's a wide variety of integration when it comes to B2B integration. I may talk about ETL. A lot of data integration also happens on the same platforms. It has the connection towards APIs. So more and more APIs, how you connect to Salesforce, how you connect to Workday, those kind of applications are rising with time. So there are multiple challenges through which were there, which needs to be solved, and IPaaS came to an answer, right? There is no product in the market right now which will fit all your needs, right? But you might have to look at the hybrid approach on what kind of integrations will fit which particular product. But from Gartner, there was a story which was built in to have a hybrid integration platform built in, wherein you can adjust all of those needs. So why do customers prefer IPaaS? One of the things which I already discussed was a rising need or a rising movement of SaaS applications. More and more customers were using more SaaS applications. There was a dire necessity of having a culture of reuse within the enterprise, right? In the SOA world, we used to develop services and we used to say, okay, I will be reusing those services, but how many enterprises actually reuse those services and have a concept of service registry in place? WSRR, wherever I went and the customers we supported, not all of them went towards a solution which had service repository or something like a discoverable service in place where your consumers does not have to go to a technical team and to ask whether you have an API or a SOA service for that, right? Every time that exchange was happening on email. So there was not much of a reuse happening at the SOA level. But with the movement of IPaaS, people are creating more and more reusable APIs, keeping it in an API repository or publishing it to a portal like for API Connect, API portal. So you publish those APIs to the portal and let your developer or developers go to that portal and see if that API works out for them. They can install a client, they can download a client, and they can see whether that API is useful or not. They can look at the API spec, and which I will be talking about more in my presentation going forward. Self-service is again attached to it. Shadow IT can look into more and more of the transformations. There is more drag and drop utilities which are attached. If you look at the App Connect product itself, you can ask your Shadow IT if they say, okay, I want to see all my marketing leads into Salesforce, right? App Connect provides you with an interface where you can easily integrate your Salesforce with an Excel worksheet, right? So that is something which was not there before, but as and when the need arises, IBM came up with a solution where a Shadow IT could also do some integrations on their own, which might not be at an enterprise scale, but they can start doing it. Platform advantage. So if you're doing all your integrations on a single platform, if Bluemix is the platform of your choice, there's a lot of features which Bluemix provides. One is DevOps. You can quickly enable those APIs or those services on Bluemix itself. So once you build your API, you have the flexibility to choose the runtime, right? Whether you want to use IIB on cloud, whether you want to deploy that on App Connect, whether you want to have a smaller runtime and deploy and you want to implement it using something like Node.js. So platform provides you with a lot of features. Some of them are scalability. You deploy your service within a Docker container and let the platform take care of the scalability piece by managing the instances via Kubernetes. Elasticity, object storage, identity management. You don't have to look for multiple products, duct taping it into your environment and taking from there. You can take care of all those things at the platform level itself. Microservices. So this concept keep on coming. I was also referring, I had a session yesterday where we spoke about a lot of people doing microservices. So once you have the API definition built in, you can choose the runtime, right? When you choose the runtime at the platform level, deploying it over Node.js and having its own data store. Again, a data store, it can be a NoSQL data store, it can be a relational data store, which again can be provided by the platform itself. So you have the capability, if you start moving your integrations to cloud and choose a platform of choice, you can work towards creating more and more microservices from there. Faster build and deploy. So this is again a DevOps cycle which I was talking about. These are some of the broader features and capabilities which an IPaaS platform should have, and some of those are, the gaps are filled in by having it on Bluemix or software, right? So I'll not go again each and every aspect of these features, but on the left hand side, the developer has the right to choose the toolkit which he wants, Eclipse or STS if he's writing Spring code. And then you have integration services. You are doing all the orchestration, composition, data mapping, policy enforcement, security. So all those services are provided by the platform itself. And from there, you can deploy those services in containers like Dockers and scale them up. You have cloud connectors to connect to your cloud apps or SaaS apps like Salesforce, Workday, Sugar CRM, OCOD. And you have enterprise connectors to connect to your enterprise apps such as Oracle ERPs, EBS, SAPs, mainframes, and AS400s, right? And then, since it's all driven by API culture, you have Swagger definitions. Once you deploy it, you or publish them via API Connect, you can very well run analytics on top of it. Who is consuming those APIs, when he is consuming, from where he is consuming, and what he is consuming it for. So analytics again at the platform level, which provides you operational intelligence within the platform, and also from an API level itself. These are some of the container management and alerts and monitoring. I'm not going into detail of that. Probably you might be attending some of the Bluemix session. So all these platform data stores and the platform advantages are covered in those sessions. This is the guidance given by Gartner in one of the studies which they published around hybrid integration platform. So this is how they predict enterprises should be doing hybrid integration and set up an hybrid integration platform. So if you see the downward layer where you have primary data center, this is what people were doing when they in the SOA style of doing things, right? Where you have application suites, which is an IB on-prem, and you are connecting applications there. Now the need arises when we have more of SaaS applications and how to connect those. So then App Connect, or previously known as Cast Iron, came into picture, right? Where you start connecting the cloud SaaS apps, since Cast Iron has 140 odd connectors, which will help you connect to those apps. Then there was a need to expose those APIs to an external world for them to consume. And API economy came into picture, the Ubers and the Starbucks, when they wanted to expose those APIs to their customers for them to consume, right? You want to publish those APIs and let the developer come to your API portal, download that API, and you put some restrictions around that, and the culture of API economy kicked in. So that's when you need a solution which can fit in your needs, right? APIs were not just created for the external world. I will talk about how APIs are revolutionizing the way we do integrations on-prem by exposing your assets in the form of APIs and making a change in the integration. So, introduction to IBM's IPaaS, Applications Integration Suite on Cloud. So these are some of the benefits which we gain by going towards AISOC. As I previously told, Application Integration Suite on Cloud comprises of IBM's 3 products: IBM Integration Bus on Cloud, IBM App Connect, and API Connect, right? So creating microservices and APIs using Node.js and Express frameworks. Why I say that? Because it gives you an advantage. Once you buy licenses of IBM API Connect in Bluemix, you already know how Bluemix works, and there's are plenty of runtimes when it comes to Node.js, Python, Scala, Ruby, which are provided out of the platform itself, and you will have an advantage of deploying those APIs using those shorter runtimes as well. It reduces a lot of complexity and gives back a lot of cost saving. API economy is definitely an advantage if you're trying to build more and more APIs. Okay, so as part of this small demo which I'm going to present, since we are connecting Salesforce and SAP, these are the technologies which I've used. Integration bus on cloud, integration on bus on-prem, which is nothing but a Docker image which is running inside a container on-prem. IBM API Connect on Bluemix, which is hosted on Bluemix. App Connect, which is running on SoftLayer, and definitely Salesforce. So now, how we are going to do this integration is a little different. I'm not doing a left to right integration. We are doing API-based integration. So what IBM proposed initially in Interconnect 2016 is building system APIs. So what do they mean by system APIs? By having a wrapper around your custom applications or your enterprise applications. So say suppose you have SAP and you want to fetch all the customer related information from SAP. You build an API which sits on top of your IIP and integrates back to SAP by using an SAP connector, right? So previously we were building more and more of SOAP-based API. Now the idea is to build more RESTful API, since my system of engagement might be a web consumer running the app from the desktop, or it can be my mobile consumer as well, right? So once I build my system APIs, my interaction APIs, which actually deals with mobile phones or IoTs or any other system of engagement, will talk to my system APIs to get the information, collaborate the information, aggregate them, do some kind of an orchestration, run business processes on top of that data which they got from system APIs, and give it back to the system of engagement. So this is the culture shift which we are seeing on how people are now building more and more APIs to bring in a culture of reuse within the enterprise. All these APIs sit within the API portal. You can publish it to API Connect, where your programmers, if they want to connect to say a system of record, being it SAP or say Salesforce, they can see if there is an already existing API. If there is an API which is already there, they just have to download that API and consume within their application. We don't need to rebuild it again. So this is the architecture. The right hand side is the guidance given by IBM, and on the left hand side, if you see, this is how the integration will happen. So in my system of engagement, I'm trying to retrieve a customer order information, right? So customer is just giving me a customer ID. I am trying to get the customer information from SAP and order information from Salesforce, trying to aggregate both of that information and exposing it back to system of engagement, right? So the information comes via API Connect, which is a secure call, having an OAuth in there. It lands to IIB on cloud, which does the orchestration. It calls Salesforce to get, so it calls the SAP to get the customer details. Once I got the customer details, it gets to Salesforce to get the order details. Once I have both the information with me in IIB on cloud, I'll aggregate that and send it back to my system of engagement, which can be a mobile app or a web client. This is on the high level. This is the architecture which we are looking at. Salesforce being a cloud app. From IBM's IPaaS perspective, I'm repeating myself. On Bluemix, I'm using API Gateway, which is nothing but an IBM API Connect, API management suite, which gives me a gateway functionality, and a developer portal where I'm exposing and publishing my APIs using Swagger definitions. On software, I have IBM App Connect Professional, which helps me connect to all the SaaS applications. And then I'm using IIB on cloud, which is making a secure connection via IIB switch server to IIB instance, which is running inside a Docker container on-prem. So why actually I'm using this IIB inside a Docker container is, at one point of time, I move away from SAP and I say I want to use NetSuite. NetSuite is hosted on cloud, right? I will have the advantage of taking this IIB, which is running inside a container, and load it onto Bluemix. And from there, I'm good to go, right? I don't have to rewrite those integrations, or I don't even have to migrate those integrations on Bluemix. I don't have to test them again. So all of that effort can be saved if we try to bring in that change of running IIB within the Docker container itself. And you can take it to the cloud of your choice. So this is the live demo which I will be presenting in some time. This is the FatCat example which I take. It's a design-first approach which we have taken towards API. So we'll use Swagger editor to model my APIs. So I'm looking at customer API. Suppose I'm looking at customer API, which retrieves all the customer-related information from SAP, right? So I sit with an SAP expert, I sit with a business expert, and I see what do you like to have in that API. How should the response look like? What are the fields you are looking at from a get customer ID perspective, right? Once I do that, I test it using Node.js and Swagger within my own local suite, where I built in some kind of a mocking, right? So I give the response back to my consumer, which in this case can be a business analyst or can be a process or a product owner, and I see, okay, the API which you asked me to build as per the requirement of definition, this is what I came up with, and this is the response which I am getting back from SAP. Till now, I am not connected anywhere. I'm just mocking the response based on what my customer is saying, what my consumer is saying. I'll try to make my API as generic as possible so that it makes the culture of reusability even stronger. Once I achieve that, I'll do more testing and validate using a Swagger client. So my client can again be a Ruby client, or can be a PHP client, or any client. If you go to Swagger editor, I'll show you sometime you have a liberty of downloading a client. Once you download the client, you should be able to test the API by consuming the Swagger definitions. Once that is done, I give it, all this process is done, I do the cleanup, I do the mocking, I know what I have to build. The contract is ready. I give it back to my developer and I say, go and build this API, right? So he can choose the platform of his choice. If we are trying to deploy this API, which connects to enterprise application, I'll give it to IIB toolkit, to an IIB developer who can build that API for me. If this talks to a cloud application or a SaaS application, it is better that I deploy it on App Connect. So I'll give it to my App Connect professional developer, which he will use a different toolkit to build that integration for me. The third thing which I have not noted here is if I'm building a microservice and I don't need such a heavy runtimes, I need something like a Node.js, then I have a liberty where I will give it to my Java developer and I'll ask him, this is my API spec, can you please use Express and can you please use Node.js and do an integration back to a NoSQL or a SQL store and get the response back to me. So based on that, I have a liberty where I need to build it and where I need to deploy it. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to test my APIs using something like JUnit or JMeter, both are open source initiatives. Once I'm done with my testing, I'll release that API with API Connect. So I'll at this point of time, I'll publish it, right? Once I publish it to an API portal, now I have the liberty of reuse where the developers from within the enterprise, if it is an internal API, or if it is an external API, I release it to external parties, something like Walgreens API or Delta API, so that the developers from the external world can come and consume this API. So that is the methodology which we have followed while working on this demo.
Okay guys, so now we'll start the live demo of AIS on cloud. We'll start with designing from a design first approach towards APIs, and since we have three APIs we're talking here, interaction API and the system APIs being the order API and the customer API. The order API gets the order details from Salesforce, and the customer API gets the customer details from SAP. So we'll pick and choose one of the APIs, start designing them using Swagger editor. So this is the editor of choice to build open APIs by using the Swagger definition. Once we have modeled our APIs, we'll move towards simulating or testing our APIs before giving it to API developers or the other applications in our enterprise for them to mock and test going ahead with the API. Once we are done with that, we can simulate it, we can publish it to a Swagger client, and we can also ask we can do the testing based on the client of our choice. So we can go to the Swagger editor and download the client of our choice based on Ruby, PHP, Java, or Scala, and test our API definition through the client of choice. Once the testing is done from the client side, we'll go ahead and try to give the API spec, the Swagger API, the YAML-based Swagger definition to the developer to import the same into the toolkit. So the toolkit can be IIB toolkit if we are trying to integrate with the packaged applications on-prem, like Oracle, SAP, AS400s, and mainframes. Or if we are trying to integrate with some of the SaaS applications like Salesforce, Sugar CRM, OCOD, Workday, and Demandware, things like that, then we'll be deploying it to an App Connect runtime. Once the developer has finished developing the code, integrating it with the backend system of record, and we'll start with the unit testing. The unit testing can be done within the supplied tools from the toolkit itself, or it can be done outside of the scope of the toolkit, where we can bring in the predefined test cases which were constructed during the UAT phase and executed by some of the open source tools like JUnit or JMeter for performance testing and unit testing perspective. Once we are done with the testing and the developer is happy with the test results, all of them have passed, we'll try to engage with the external world and make that API which we published initially live. And so what that means is we can now secure our API, we can put governance rules around those APIs and publish it to the external developers or to the internal developers to start consuming that API by putting different policies, by putting different governance rules like throttling, like SLA tiers, by giving securities like API key, via API key, OAuth, or basic authentication. And then it can be published to an outside portal. So this is how the life cycle of the API-based implementation looks like on Application Integration Suite. and we'll go back to the code and see how it actually gets implemented. So we'll go to our development machine and try to open the Swagger editor. So this is one of the interaction APIs. I'll probably start with showing you how we constructed the customer API. So this is the Swagger definition of the customer API looks like. So here you can see the resource, which is customer, and we are querying the customer based on the customer ID. What we are getting in return is the schema around customer, and how we have defined our schema around customer is, if we go into the details, it has customer number, it has name, city, postal code. So all this customer related information is being given back from the API to our consumer layer, right? So there are plenty of information which is coming back as a response when we try and query the customer details with the help of customer ID. So this is how we will formulate our response. This response is something which is being collaborated with the external users or external application owners who says that we want to get details around the customer, and they use this API as a single mode to interact, or a single way to interact to get back and forth information related to the customer. So this induces reusability within the enterprise. When a customer related information is being asked from SAP time and again, we don't have to go back to the SAP team and ask for the similar details, or ask for an integration layer to build new set of interfaces or APIs with the need of new and over new projects. But we can bring in the culture of reusability by designing once and deploying once and then reusing multiple times. So once my definition is done based on the interaction with my consumers, and they are okay that this is how they would like the responses when it comes to 200, 400, and 404 being populated in case of a successful or an unsuccessful response, then we will try to simulate the API by providing any of the mock ID, and we are going to send the request, and the system is going to send the response back to me in this form, where I can see that the response which I anticipated is coming back, and my consumer application is okay to receive this response from backend SAP layer. So this is how we'll do the designing on the left side, mocking on the right hand side. Once we are done with that, then we'll import the customer API definition onto the toolkit. Let me see if I have some of the toolkits open. So I'll go to my toolkit and import these flows back to my toolkit layer. Just give me a minute. Let me open the right flow. Okay, so here if you see, once I import my Swagger definition to my toolkit, it's very easy. I can probably show you. So if you go and select this REST API and go here, type a name, and you say import, and then you go. I can go here and import the API of my choice. Once I import this API, it gives me a flow, which is a skeleton flow, where I can go ahead and start my implementation. So let me show you how the implementation looks like in case of a customer API. So if you see, it's a hybrid integration since we're getting the customer details from the backend SAP system of record. I am using a callable flow, invoke flow, which talks to my SAP app, which talks to my IIB runtime running on-prem, and I'm sending an order ID. So I'm invoking this flow. Let me go to this flow. So if you see this, this is the on-premise flow where I have deployed this flow to my on-premise IIB engine running inside the Docker container. So this flow receives the request from the flow which is deployed in cloud. Once it receives the request, it sends the request to the system API, which is deployed and which takes the HTTP request and gets connects to SAP using the SAP request node. Let us see that flow. So here, if you see, it hits the SAP to get the customer details and gives the response back to my original flow, from where I go and hit the app connect and get the order details from Salesforce. Let's go and see. Okay, I think I'm able to get to the flow at this point of time. So we have a different flow which helps us to get details of order from SAP, and we can make use of that flow to get those details. Once we have those details, IIB flow patches in the responses from the SAP and the order details from order details coming from Salesforce and customer details coming from SAP, aggregates the response and sends it back to the request API. Once that is done, I am good to publish this API onto API Connect. So I'll go to my API Connect now. So this is the interaction API which I was talking about, which takes in the customer ID and gives me the customer details and order details back from SAP and Salesforce correspondingly. And I can easily publish that definition to my API Connect. API Connect is acting as a gateway and as a governance tool, plus an API management product, which is helping me manage, govern, and apply security policies on top of my existing APIs. Plus, it also provides me a portal where I publish my APIs for others to come and consume. So the developers can come here, they can see this API, they can try some of the different clients through which they can test out this API. So I'm using a simple definition and trying to test this API. I just say call the particular operation, and I can get the response back from the API. Let me see. So if you see, we'll get the customer details and we'll get the corresponding order details back from SAP and Salesforce correspondingly. Once we have tried and tested with the client of our choice, we can also download the API spec, which is nothing but a YAML-based Swagger implementation, and can import the same if our clients are capable enough to absorb this definition, just as in the case of how we used to do when in SOAP WSDL definitions. Once we are done with that, we'll go and apply some security policies. If you come here, this is the interaction API dashboard, the design dashboard, and we'll come here and apply the security policy of our choice, like API key, basic authentication, or AAuth or OAuth, and we can configure our API with the right security definitions before publishing it to the external world. So this is how the design first approach to an API based integration works in this landscape. Thanks all for watching the demo, and I'm opening it up for questions at this point of time.